Welcome to the True Life Balance Podcast. My name is Brad Lancaster.
And my name is Tiffany Lancaster. And this is a podcast about relationships and deep connection.
And this is a podcast about health and fitness.
And this is a podcast about consciousness and purpose.
And this is a podcast about business, sales, marketing, entrepreneurship. In other words, it's a podcast about everything that we care about. So come along for the ride and hope you enjoy. Thank you for joining us, and we are so excited. We have Carver Louis, one of our best friends, and I wanted to tell my version of how we got connected. Our friends and the people that know us know that I like to play music. I don't do it very much anymore, and music is like a passion of mine. And was it 8 years ago? 7 or 8 years ago.
It was a while ago.
Yeah. Let's see. You were 14.
I was pregnant with Junior, yeah.
9 years ago? Holy cow. A good friend of mine, Nathan, and I, actually, ironically, it was the first time Nathan and I played together at a local little music festival that another one of our friends was putting on, Sean Heap, called Beanstalk, and it was their Friday night acoustic show. Oh, yeah. And Nathan and I showed up, and we brought out our guitars, and both of us brought our entire songbook and our entire everything we knew how to play, and we just started playing. And I think he and I ended up playing for like 4 hours that night.
I was gonna say it was a good stretch.
Yeah, it was a long time,
and people were having a good time,
aided by a lot of liquid encouragement. And you were just a kid there, and your dad came up, Rocky, who's over there. He came up and he said, "Hey, would you mind letting my son? He's been working on a song. Would you mind letting him sing a song?" And we were getting tired, and anybody want to play a song, that'd be great.
See, I always thought, I always figured it was like, oh man, another guy wanting to have his kid try and be the star of the show type deal.
No, I was so glad to get some relief, because my fingers were so sore. I was going hoarse. When you've been playing for hours, and you're like, I would do anything for a break right now. But the crowd was loving the show, and I was like, well, we can't stop because it just keeps going.
You guys were energized, man.
And you got up and you played a George Strait song. I don't remember which one.
Probably Amarillo by Morning or something like that.
Probably so. And me and Nathan were looking at each other like, this is his first song he's ever played in public. Who is this?
That was scary, man. That was a scary time.
I still remember you just got up there and did your thing. It was no big deal. And so that's why it was so hard to believe that it was the first time you picked up a guitar in front of anyone.
Well, I remember I remember staring at the ground, and if you look at, I think there's pictures, and I was staring at the ground, but 3 feet out, so I didn't look at anyone because I was scared, nervous as all get out. And I remember you, Brad, you set everything up for me. You're like, all right, buddy, here you go. I'm like, thanks.
Well, you did. It was so cool. And look, really quick, fast forward. So Carver started, Nathan and I, my good friend, we were playing in a couple of bars in Tooele at nights, and we said, well, why don't you come on down and start playing with us? Yeah. And you'd come down, you'd play 2 songs, or you'd play 3 songs, yep. and then you'd start saying, hey, I got more. And before we knew it, you were playing at least as much, if not more. And I was loving it, so I would just sit back and loved watching you play. And then we started playing some songs together, and then at the Tooele, it was the 4th of July celebration.
Yep.
Nathan and I were playing, and you were playing your stuff, and another band saw you playing.
Yep, good old Mike, right? Michael Sutton. Yeah,
Mike saw you, and he said, "Hey, we could build a band around you." Yeah, and I thought, well, sure you could. Of course, you could do that around Carver. He's got this great country voice and such a great spirit about him. And from that point on, and that was in what? That was probably in 2015, I bet.
Yep, I think it was the summer of 2015.
You just started on this path where music was your thing, and at the same time, you were also starting quarterback for the Tooele High School.
And I remember you guys coming out to a few of those games.
Loved watching you play football as well. So he's a musician, he's an athlete, and he's had this, and I've watched you like you're living the dream.
I don't know about that. We're trying to.
No, you're living the dream. Let me explain
I remember
why.
the first time I heard you on cable 93, I was like in the car and they played one of your songs and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like I was so excited.
So
it was
excited.
So amazing.
Those are definitely fun moments when stuff like that happens.
Well, you've played Country Fan Fest.
Yep.
Multiple times.
A few times, yeah.
A few times. You've played at the Depot, which is, I think, for my money, and I'm a huge like local music fan, and I love those venues that we've got here in Salt Lake. We've got some amazing venues for up and coming artists, or even like for touring artists that aren't quite selling out arenas yet.
Yep.
But like incredible venues, and the Depot is, as far as I'm concerned, probably one of the best, if not the best.
Oh yeah, it sounds fantastic, and Troy and Troy Stubbs and everyone who works there, they do a phenomenal job production wise and everything. So.
And you had that place rocking. You've had that place rocking.
It's fun because it's a fun room to play. It's like you said, as far as like our venues that we have in Salt Lake, that's definitely like a venue that I would say would be a bucket list venue for most of the Salt Lake musicians here, and it's a really fun room to be able to be in, and especially when you're surrounded by your friends, you know what I mean, in your family, and being able to play in front of them.
But this is the thing.
Like, I'm curious, what has the journey been for you, Carver? Like, what?
Great question.
So like from my perspective, I love the story you said, Brad, and from my perspective, it's just that I loved every minute of the journey, to say, from the first steps of so for my journey, it was I got a guitar from Grandma, and I decided to learn how to play a few songs. And then,
how did you learn how to play this? I know how, but tell us how.
I learned how to play on YouTube the new school way. Never learned tablature. I couldn't read music. I still can't read music. But learned on YouTube, and yeah, the journey from that part is pretty much how you described it. It was me and Brad met up, and Nathan, and we went and played, I remember, the brewery locals, and the brewery every other weekend. And that was honestly some of my most favorite times of my life, playing there. I remember there was this one time that we were playing there, and I looked up, and all of our friends and family were all upstairs looking down on us. I'm like, man, this is so cool. And at that moment, I thought that was like making it, you know.
Well, it was at that point, because that was for me as well, by the way. Like for me to have like 40 or 50 people listening to me sing.
And that
music,
at that moment, I remember like all my friends from high school were coming in to watch us on the bottom floor.
Because the bar was upstairs. Yeah, it is upstairs.
And so it was all a bunch of like younger kids and families downstairs, and then upstairs it was all the adults. And I was like, man, this is so cool, you know. And I remember doing those for a long time, and then transferring over to the band with Mike, and I mean, I'm grateful for Mike for being so kind to ask me to want to play with me, and that whole journey's just been wild. We've been able to play some incredible shows outside of state in Nashville and California, Georgia. I mean, just it's been.
I wanted to ask you, because I try not to bother you, because I watch. Tell me about your favorite place that you've played. Like, what's been your favorite venue that you've played?
My favorite
By the way, are you 23 or 24?
I'm 24.
Okay, you're 24 years
24
old.
now.
Okay.
We just turned 24
That's what I
this year.
thought.
Oh, man, that is hard. That's a hard thing, because I don't want to upset my friends.
Right. So tell me about some of your favorites or memorable shows that you've played.
I will say my top venues that I played, of course, are the Depot. For Utah, to say, Country Fan Fest. I am forever grateful for Hal and Bracken Hudson. They run a fantastic venue out there, and still to do so to this day. They always try and make that lineup top notch for country music fans. And then my other top three venue, I have to say this because I'm going down there actually tomorrow. I'm flying out tomorrow to go down there. Is Stoney's down in Vegas.
World famous Stoney's.
World famous Stoney's, man.
Absolutely.
And Tooele and all those guys, they run a fantastic show. I mean, they have Dylan Schneider this week. I think they just had Jimmy Allen last week, and Neon Union and those guys, but they have some top-notch acts go through there. So to be able to be on the same stage as who's played down there is to me, it feels really good, you know. It's uplifting. But I will say, sorry guys if you're watching, but my most favorite show that we ever played, we did a fly date to Santa Rosa, California. We flew into San Francisco, and it was a hectic day because we flew in, got there a little late, and then we went to pick up our Sprinter bus to take us up to Santa Rosa. And I remember my dad, Rocky, who's also our manager, he goes on the road with us quite a bit, so like our tour manager. And he was cruising because we were behind schedule to get up. And that, I think, just for the whole experience and the whole day to get up there was my most favorite, most memorable show date that we did have. And like Tim McGraw was playing that festival. Florida Georgia Line was the headliners that night.
Holy cow.
And that was the first time that I ever saw Lindsay L. And that lady can rip guitar. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it was just, all in all, it was an essence because I was with all my old crew, Greg Johnson, Zach So, Dan and Mike and everyone. And we had a blast going up there, and it was our first flight day ever to ever fly out and play a show. So that was my most memorable show.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, when you get to go and do something like that, especially like you started watching YouTube videos to learn how to play the guitar, you're a country fan, and then all of a sudden you're like at the same stage, at the same venue of some of the greatest country music stars going.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't hit you, especially like in 2016 when I was just a senior in high school. I mean, Florida Georgia Line at that point was like the pinnacle of country music, you know, and Sam Hunt and all those guys, and Tim McGraw, of course, has been a in-house name for country music for years, since the 90s. And yeah, like you said, to get there, and it's funny that you just said that, because I didn't actually just think about that until just now, since you said that. That's actually a big thing now that I just thought about. I just had an epiphany. But yeah, that is kind of a big deal.
That is kind of a big deal. You played on the same stage.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you were doing that?
I was 20. I think I was 21. That was the summer that I just barely turned 21, so it's only been about 3 years since.
On that note, like, I see that in you. Like, so my question to you, Carver, is, first, I have to tell you, like, one of the first memories I have of you, and I don't even know if you remember this, but we actually have a connection from earlier because my stepsister, who I grew up with, she dated your uncle, and they had a baby together.
Okay.
Right?
Yep,
so
yep.
One of my first memories of you is I went to I think it was like your 6th or 7th birthday party. And I can remember back then, like, this energy that you had about you. And I'm like, wow, this kid. And it's so funny because there was you just have always had this powerful energy about
thank you.
And I think, like, you get up on stage and you just do it so gracefully. And, like, I have to wonder, like, because I know most people deal with, like, these demons or insecurity, whatever you want to call it, where there's some voice in the back of your head that's worried that, you're not good enough, or people aren't going to like you, or, all those things that people deal with. From the outside, like, looking in, it looks like that doesn't exist for Carver Louis.
Oh my gosh. I wish it didn't. No, I deal with I deal with some of the, I'm so critical on myself. And I think that's because, growing up in sports, and all my coaches, of course, my dad was one, and my uncle, and all the coaches that I had in high school and everything, they always wanted me to do my best and be my best. And they said that you can only control what you can control. And I always have to remind myself that, because there's times where I'm like, man, I can't hit this note today, because you know how it is.
Yeah, your voice gets tired. And you just can't get there.
You get fatigued, and it's like, man, I can't hit that note today, or we have to change this song into a little bit lower key so I can get up there, but not too much. So yeah, no, like in singing wise, I'm sure Brad understands. It's like you always have to be adjustable, and but yeah, I feel that all the time, and sometimes, especially when we play the bigger shows, it's like, man, I hope that nothing goes wrong. And when it does go wrong, you feel like everyone's just staring at you, and you have this weight on your chest. For example, we played with Rodney Atkins this last summer for a few dates, and on one of the dates,
was that in Elko? Is that
so we were in Nevada one night, and then we were up in Logan, Utah, the next night, and at the Logan show. So the Nevada show went awesome. Everything was a crisp, clean set. We got in, got out, and it was good. And I was like, heck yeah, I was high on life, And then the next day I got brought back down because in the middle of the set, I for all the musicians, always bring a spare guitar because in the middle of the set, I snapped a string.
Oh, gosh,
you
that
know how
is so stressful.
Everything goes out of tune because all the
well, and your fingers don't feel right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you can't even play the frets
there's
anymore.
There's a whole space where the string's missing, and the guitar's out of tune. So I tried my best to do makeshift, and during that, I think it was like maybe 3 minutes or so. So one song, I think I just had the other guys play. I was like, oh my gosh, this set is ruined, and we're only halfway through. And luckily, the wonderful thing about the music industry is that if another musician sees you struggling, they're like, I will help this kid.
I got you.
And Rodney's rhythm guitar player, one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He came up, handed me his J45, Gibson J45, and just plugged me in like on the fly. He took my guitar off me. He strapped his into mine, like how you see it on the award shows when they change guitars.
Yeah, you got your roadie there.
Exactly. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy just saved our show. And yeah, so in those moments, I feel that stress, I feel that weight, and it's like, oh my gosh, because you always want to do good, especially for the people who pay a lot of money, or they're paying their hard-earned dollars to come see a show, and that's what they deserve.
Well, it just seems like it comes so natural. Like you get up on stage, and every show that I've ever seen you play in, like you just look like you're having so much fun, like you're just living your passion, and it just seems to come so naturally to you. Well, it's an amazing thing.
Well, and so that's funny that you say that, because like to me, when I see you guys doing your thing, and it's like, because I watch your videos, of like when you flip, and it looks like you guys are doing the same thing, it looks like you guys are having fun doing what you're doing. I think that's the one thing that I am having fun, because I mean, I realize it because not a lot of people are fortunate enough or lucky enough to play some of the shows that I've been able to play, and every day I got to remind myself whenever we go to another show, it's like, man, you're lucky to do this. Yeah. And I think it's the same way with anyone who enjoys what they get to do,
Yeah.
Well, you do transform. I was trying to think of the word as Tiff and I were driving down here, and because I watch you transform from mild-mannered Carver to this superhuman. I'm not kidding. And like you just grab the stage and you grab the mic and you grab your guitar, and it doesn't matter if there's 10 people there, because you've come and played shows for us where we've had like 15 or 20 people. Or you're at the Depot, or you're at any other or country fan fest, and you're grabbing the entire crowd and bringing them along for the journey. It's amazing.
Well, yeah. So it's one of those things where I got to give it credit back to when I played sports. They always, all the coaches, I'm sure you've heard this, because haven't you coached before?
Yeah, I coached and was an athlete, sure.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like they always tell you got to flip the switch when you hit the field.
Right.
It's the same thing as that when you hit the stage. It's like you gotta flip the switch and become an entertainer.
Right.
And it's funny because one of the things that I can think of, and it's really weird that you asked this question. Because about 2 days ago, I just had a memory pop up on Facebook, and it was when I won tickets to a Chris Jansen concert at the DeJoria Center.
I remember that. Yeah, that's such a great story. Tell that story.
And so I won tickets off the radio, just like any other person. I didn't call or ask for any favors. And then when I was up there, I spun a wheel, and then I won tickets to a meet and greet. And I was like, sweet, we're rolling. And I was lucky enough because I got to take my mom and my dad with me. Because I always like to try and do something for them, because I owe a lot to them. And but anyway, so we would go to this meet and greet, and I was joking around. I was like just fiddling around in my pockets because I was nervous. I always get nervous when I meet other country singers. I don't know why, but it just is what it is. And I felt guitar
you're
pick.
Still a fan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still a fan. And I felt the guitar pick. I was like, oh shoot! And I pull it out, and it was one of mine that has my name on it and my logo. And I was like, and I look at my dad. I'm joking around like, I'm just gonna give this to Chris. Be like, hey, if you ever need an opener, give me a call. And so I met him, took pictures, and I did that. I was like, hey, I would love to open up for you, one day. So if you ever need a good, an opener or a guitar pick, here's one. And he's all right on, man. Didn't think anything of it. Went and sat down on the seats, and then got pulled up on stage by Chris at the end of the show when he was singing his big hit, Buy Me a Boat. And I was like, oh my gosh. And in that moment, I wasn't ready because I didn't flip the switch yet. And I was scared to death because I hop up on the stage. I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. And I'm like shaking. And then in the video, I think it clicked with me because Chris is like, sing it, buddy. And I was like, when he said that, that's when the flip switch. And I was like, grab the mic, and I feel bad because it looks like I just rip it out from Chris, and I didn't want it to look like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, he probably hates me. He probably is like, this kid. But it was the flip switch, because it's like, you only get one shot, so might as well go all out.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's so important. That's why I asked that question, because I think so many people think that they start to believe those stories that we tell ourselves, that, people aren't going to like us, or it's going to be too hard, or you're going to fail, or, all those stories that we tell ourselves. And it's not that people like you don't have those stories.
Oh no, everyone does.
That you do it anyway.
Yeah, it's like you guys. It's like taking a risk. When you don't go after it. It's and sometimes the award is bigger than the risk. So might as well go after it.
Then what do you have to lose?
Exactly, 100%. That's exactly how I feel in life.
Well, so here's a cool story about who you are. At least it meant so much to me. So we saw you when you performed at the Depot. When was that? Was that like in October or?
Oh, was it this last time?
Yeah, this last time.
I think it was August.
Okay. So you performed on I think a Saturday night or Friday or Saturday night. Yeah. The place was packed. It was so great because venues were finally opening up. And
I was going to say, I think it was the Depot's first time that they could have a non-seated concert.
Oh, wow. That's right.
I think that's right. What it was. Because I think before, when we played it the first time, everyone was seated. And
right. And we were at that one too. And that was a good one because your dad came and grabbed us a table up front. That was nice. And then that one, and that one was, the place was packed and rocking and everybody was having a great time. And like we were walking out and a lot of our buddies from Tooele, and we were talking about, man, Carver is killing it. This is so awesome. And like you were the star of the show. And that was on a Saturday night, I think. Mm-hmm. And then Monday morning, I'm out at one of our projects. Checking it up, meeting my project managers, going over everything, and I see this kid driving down the street on a scooter and
a
Vespa, measuring, doing the water meter checks, right?
Oh yeah,
and I know it's you because I know you well enough that I can see just your body language, and because you had a helmet on and everything, being very safe, and it was raining too. Oh, yeah, it was raining. It was a miserable morning, and it was right after a big storm.
Yep.
And you were out there doing your job, your 9 to 5, working for Tooele City, doing what you do, right? And I was honestly moved in that moment. I was like, this is what life is about. On the weekends, he's chasing his dreams. He's living the dream. He is rocking the show and the star of the show. And then on Monday morning, he wakes up and he does what he has to do.
Yep.
And goes to work. Checking meters. I mean, there's no glory in that.
No.
In fact, you're dodging dogs and trucks and everything else. I gotta believe, right?
Oh yeah, mostly cars.
Right.
those darn teenagers.
If Brad calls me and he's telling me, and we were just had this whole conversation about what an amazing, humble person. And what
a great example.
Jeez, you guys are going to make me tear up.
No, I am constantly impressed by that. But you're chasing your dream right now. And that's why I say you're living the dream, because the chase is
it's part of the living it.
That's it, right? The whole journey. What are you up to right now? Because I know,
So right now, in the works. It's been in the works for the last 2 years. Getting ready to move to Nashville, and I've been anxious about that. And I want to say that COVID shut it down, but also myself shut it down last year because, of course, COVID came in and all of our shows were canceled the first year that it came in. So 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
So the summer of 2020, we had a bunch of shows lined up, and I was like, after this summer, I'm going to move to Nashville. And I told myself that. And then all those started getting canceled, and they're like, hey, can we rebook for next year? And so I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we can. I'll just wait one more year. And you know how that process goes. You tell yourself, yeah, one more year, and then all of a sudden you get stuck in a cycle. And so this last 2021 summer went, and we played all of our rebook shows, and I just told myself, I'm not gonna wait another summer. We gotta go after it now. And like you said, you gotta chase it while you gotta live it while you're chasing it.
Yeah.
And so this next month, before we head out, because we still got to do the whole process of jobs and housing and everything, which I'm excited to talk to you guys about. We're gonna try and become a full-time musician for the first time in my life, and schedule the shows for that month, so that way I can really see what it's like, and really push myself and kind of experience that first before we go out there and do it. So
interesting. So one thing Tiff and I were wondering, we're like, well, we got to ask Carver, because we know, like we have this. In fact, we spend time purposefully. We call it scripting, where we write out what success looks like for us, and we do this ritual every morning.
Like manifestation?
Yeah,
okay.
Basically, and so we have a pretty good picture, so that we can become the people that we need to be to experience the life we want to live, right? Yep. So I'm curious, what does that look like for you? Like in your mind's eye, when you stop and think about it, you're like, okay, this is what success is as you're going on this journey.
Man, that's a good question. So for me, in what I consider successful in life is just to be able to do what you love and do it happily and make a living off of it. But for me, like the top tier in my eyes right now, is I don't care to be a big shot performer. I don't care to be the person that you hear on the radio every single day. I really don't. To me, to be successful would be to be a songwriter and have number ones cut by other artists. That to me is being successful, because it's not only you're helping yourself, but you're helping others succeed at what they want to do too. And being a successful songwriter is success to me, and being a signed writer as well. I've always kind of looked at it, everyone wants to be independent these days, but I'm like, only a select few get to become a signed songwriter. And I think that's what it would be. And it wasn't until after I met Chris Wallen, Ira Dean, and Billy Dean. I don't know if you know who any of those names are. So Chris Wallen wrote Kenny Chesney's Don't Blink. Ira Dean, he's written a lot of songs. He was part of Trick Pony, and Billy Dean, he was big in the 90s.
Billy Dean was huge in the 90s.
Exactly. Yeah. And it wasn't until I did a songwriter festival with them and got to know those guys that it's like, these guys look like they enjoy what they do, and they just live it. And they, to me, in my eyes, those guys are successful because they write songs that hit people at heart. And that's the biggest thing to me, is to be able to write songs that actually touch people's lives. And whenever you can do that, that's being successful in me. In my thought, it's not about the money or the fame of it all. It's being able to help others when they're in a hard time or a time of need.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And music does that in such.
It does.
There's really nothing like music.
No, 100%.
Yeah,
it is, and I've had one experience like that happen, but only one, and I want more to happen. So,
what do you mean one experience where like you felt like you wrote a song that?
So, I wrote my first single, Through With You, or I released it on Spotify when I was, I think I was 18, 19 when it released.
Yeah.
And at a 19-year-old age, you're just like, oh, we're just releasing music that I think that, could be something. And I got a message on my Instagram one day, and this was when I only had like maybe 1,200 followers. Nothing, not a whole lot of followers or anything like that, or outreach or anything. And we were still playing county fairs locally, just in Utah. And I got a message on Instagram, and it was some lady, and this is the beauty of streaming services these days. And I got a message from this lady. She's like, hi, I'm from like Missouri or something like that. And she's like, I found your song on the weekly, the Spotify weekly or whatever. And she's all, and I just want to let you know that it helped me get out of an abusive relationship. And I was like, wow. And 19 years old hearing that, it's like, I remember I went and showed my mom. I was like, Mom, look at this. Like, this is crazy. And she's like, that's why you do it, buddy. I was like, that is, yep, that's okay. Amazing. And so ever since then, that's what I want to chase is to get more stuff like that. So everyone always, like my producer, Matt, he always gives me crap. He's like, you're the emo sad boy of country. And I was like, well, it's those songs that are moving, and that's the thing is like anyone can write a party beer drinking song, but to write the songs that actually touch people, a lot of times they're a little bit slower,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're just you're extremely wise, and like
thank
we've
you.
already talked about like how humble you are, and I really just feel like we need, like, I would love to hear you talk about your parents, because whenever I look at you and what an amazing like young man you are, you always have to like look to the parents.
Oh, yeah.
And it is so obvious that your parents, Rocky and Sherry, like they've done an amazing job with you, and the love that they have for you, the support that they show you has just been phenomenal to watch. So I wanted to give you a minute to talk about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got to give a shout out to them. I mean, Rocky and Sherry, and it's not just for me. I mean, they support both of my two sisters, right, Amanda and Marina, and anything that we've done. And that's the thing is that, I mean, I know my dad came up from a harder, lifestyle from when he was a kid compared to what I've had. I mean, I've had it glorious compared to what he's had. And that's one thing that I always got to remember, that, my dad didn't have the things that I had, and I got to be grateful for him. And I mean, same with my mom, my grandpa pretty much raised her, and then I've been so lucky to know my grandmother, and where at that points my mom didn't have that opportunity to know her mom, but luckily she's back in our life. And but it's just the stories and the lessons that especially my dad that he told us about, that you got to be grateful for what you have, and you got to work hard in life for what you want. Yeah. So.
Well, that's obvious.
And I got to give a big shout out to my sisters. They're doing great in life. Amanda's a fantastic mom, and my sister Marina, she's out in Charlotte, North Carolina, working for the Hornets Stadium. So
yeah,
like I said, they support those two just as much as they do me. They're so supportive, and I know that they know that we all love them.
That's awesome.
I was as we were getting ready to talk to you, I was one of the. Have you listened to Coulter Wall?
Yes. Yep. Coulter Wall, the farm boy himself.
Yeah, and and he writes. He writes deep,
good songs,
dark songs.
He's like Jason Isbell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And he kind of reminds me of Johnny Cash, like a reincarnation
even his voice. Yeah.
And if you haven't listened to Coulter Wall, like, fabulous as well. But you've got a voice like that with so much soul and so much and that was the thing that, like, when you were 14, you were singing songs that were written by grown-ass men, and you were singing them like you knew what they were talking about.
We were trying, man. I remember when I first did Simple Man, I think you told me, you're like, you should do this song, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and then I did it, and then you're like, that, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Simple Man, one of the best songs ever written. Leonard Skinner.
And the reason why is because I think you used to sing it, and I heard you sing it. I was like, I like that song, and then you like kind of showed me the way on how to feel in that when you sing that song. You know what I mean? And so I owe a lot to you and Nathan for teaching me that stuff when I was young.
Kind.
No, I'm serious.
You're very kind.
Absolutely.
You're always, that's the other thing. Like, you always blow me away whenever I show up. You're always so kind and so generous to point me out, and I'm not there for that reason, but you're always very kind because you've done this. But a couple. So you talked about like the nerves of getting on stage, but what really scares you?
Oh,
like
spiders.
Spiders are freaking scary. No, just kidding. Snakes for her. But.
I don't know. What really scares me? You want to know, like musically wise?
No, just maybe musically, maybe life, like when you start diving into fears, because I've learned that the more I can identify what the fears that I have and deal with them, right? Because fears don't ever go away like that. In fact, one of the things I love about playing live music is that nervousness that I get right before. And I don't care if I'm playing for 4 people or for 40 or the biggest thing I ever did was open for Royal Bliss.
Heck yeah.
And that was the best thing I ever did. And I was scared and I loved it.
Yes.
Right.
Oh yeah. You get the adrenaline rush coming on. Oh man. So as far as like entertainment goes, believe it or not, I get more scared when I'm playing for 5 people than I do if I'm playing for 2,500 people. Like the bigger crowds, I feel like are a little easier to play in front of.
Isn't
because it is, yeah.
Is it because it's more personal, maybe?
Exactly. Okay. That's exactly what it is, because it's like, oh man, like everyone in the room is staring at me, where out there in the crowd, yeah, some people are having a sip of their beer, or, they're talking to the person next to them, and you can't really tell, but, they're just at the show.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
Musically is my biggest scare, but I don't know, like as far as fear goes, man, that's a hard one.
Something to think about.
It is something to think about. I think not being as successful as I want to be is scary, but I feel like everyone has that fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel like that's pretty mainstream, so I can't really use that one.
No, you absolutely can't, because that's like not living up to something that
to your own expectations is
and
what
that
I
you see, right?
Yep, exactly.
Because you've seen in your mind's eye what it looks like. I know you have, because I've watched you.
Well, the one thing that I've always learned is so manifestation has always been a big process of me, and I got to give a shout out to Pat Baker at B Hood. Me and Pat talked a lot when he was kind of just starting out, and then he told me this whole thing of manifestation, kind of gave it to me. I was like, man, I really enjoy that. And he's like, set small goals first, and then manifest what you want. Everything to be. And I've set small goals that I got that inspiration from Pat to do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I started seeing them achieved. And, but yeah, just the whole being able, not able to make what I have set or what I've told myself I want to be able to get to, that's probably the biggest fear. But I mean, fear and failure go hand in hand.
Right.
Sure.
No, that's really good, actually, because I mean, saying it's mainstream, like not a lot of people wake up and think, what if I don't become who I'm supposed to become? Because that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like, I know there is something that I'm supposed to do. There's an impact that I'm supposed to have on the world. What if I don't achieve that?
Yep.
And so that's what gets you up and gets you going every day, right?
It is, yeah, because you don't want to let yourself down, first off.
Right.
And, second, you don't want to let your family down, because they've been putting a lot of time and effort, especially into the crazy music industry.
Yeah.
And so it's all, like you said, I would say that is my biggest fear, for sure.
We actually have a sign in our office that I love. It really resonates with me. It says, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it.
It is, yeah. No, I mean, any success story you hear, I mean, you hear about people who are completely broke, living out of their cars, and all of a sudden they work hard and they put the effort in, and they're multimillionaires.
Yeah.
And I think it is,
Yeah.
And there's been times where I've made some bad decisions and have failed. And learn from it. And I think that's the one good thing that I think I've experienced, especially in the music industry, because the music industry is full of a lot of downs.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're always saying, it's not about not getting knocked down. It's like, how many times are you willing to get
back up? Yeah.
And we're going to get back up every single time. And it's not that we don't have the expectation anymore that it's not going to happen. It's a matter of when.
Yep.
And we just know ahead of time we're going to get back up.
Absolutely.
No matter how hard the hit is,
Yep.
So.
Absolutely. That's why I usually sometimes listen to those. Have you seen those motivation on YouTube? And
I'm huge into motivational stuff.
I was like, one of my favorites, I remember I used to listen to it every morning, was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and like his whole story and his deal, like coming from Austria to the US. I'm like, man, I enjoy this. And I would listen to it all the time. I'm like, man, that's a success story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just stuff like that.
And so you're chasing that state, right?
Exactly.
The state of, because that's where you can go out and make a difference.
Yeah, and I mean, even here in Utah, there's a gentleman. What is it?
Sean Whalen.
Yeah, Sean.
Yeah.
So his story is incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the same thing and he has a whole different mindset about him. You know what I mean? And that's where I feel like I want to get to, is to be able to have that sort of a mindset.
So what do you do to cultivate that? Do you have a practice for that, or are you working on something?
Honestly, this is going to sound really weird, but I just be myself, because I feel like being the person that I am and knowing that I have a good work ethic will get me to that, get me to where I want to be. And of course, when it comes to, in business practices, just trying to be better than I was yesterday. And I feel like, because everyone always tells you, don't change into this person that you're not. always stay the same person. And I'm like, you know what, you're completely right, because I know that there's people who are successful out there they are the same kid that they were, growing up. And that to me is what I will always strive to be, because I don't ever want to be someone else, but I want to be like someone else, if that makes sense.
It's this caveat that it's like yes and yes. Brad and I are always talking about, like, there are so many scenarios where the answer is yes and yes.
Yep.
As odd as that sounds, because yes, like, remember, for me, it's like, I don't ever want to forget my humble beginnings.
Oh, yeah.
I don't ever want to forget where I started. But in the same breath, like, what we're trying to accomplish and all the new things and growth, right, requires that you almost become this different person.
Yep.
To be able to accomplish that and be that. It almost requires that you just, like, step into that. And so that's something that me personally, like, I've kind of struggled with that. Like, how can both of those things be true? But they absolutely are.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the 14-year-old kid that looked at the ground 3 feet in front of him could not be getting up and moving to Nashville with all of the shows you're going to be playing there and all of the shows you've played all across the country. You've literally had to become somebody different to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say it, and it all comes with growth, and that's what it is. Just personal growth and wanting to be better than you were yesterday.
Well, that thing, because you're saying, okay, I want to be better.
Yep.
So to be better, I actually have to become a different person.
Yep.
Right?
It's that is true. That is true. But still,
because I've watched you do it. Like,
yep.
The Carver that is sitting, yes, you're Carver, but you are a completely different person than you were almost 10 years ago.
That is true.
And you're not. And
at the same time,
the essence of you is amazing.
You still have the what was there before. And, I think it's because of the people. I always say you become the people that you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
And I think it's because of the people that I've been so fortunate enough to surround myself with, like you two, of course, and then of course my guys in the band, and being able to see how they do their businesses and their practices. I actually got to give a big shout out to Carl Santoro. He's my bass player, and he's taught me a lot, especially about music. We had a meeting when we very first met him before he was in the band. And I asked him about, ideas or things that could help me in the industry. And he told me these things. And I'm sure if he was here, he would tell you the same thing. But he always tells people, he's like, Carver took the advice that I gave him and he made it actually work. And I was like, so, I was like, wow, that's crazy. And he always tells me, he's like, he took it and he's like, and he actually did it. And
that's awesome.
And I was like, well, thank you, Carl. And it's like, you just go with what you become, like I said, the people you surrounded yourself with is what you become. And I thought
awesome.
that's who he was. So I had to become that.
You've got an amazing band around you. Like to watch your guys' energy.
They are fantastic.
It is so cool. Are you playing any more shows before you leave Utah that folks can see at?
So right now I think we actually just booked Ely, Nevada, but that's nowhere close to Utah. So I'm doing a lot of acoustic sets this last month because I wanted to bring it back down to where it all began.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully we can get you on a show with us.
Sure. Let's do it.
But yeah, we I think we just scheduled the break in Daybreak, Utah.
Daybreak, yeah.
Yep. For March 26th, I believe it's a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And then the break in West Valley on the March 11th, I believe. I think it's a Friday night. And then I'm up in Park City at the Spur a few times as well.
Nice.
But yeah, just taking it to, and 5-star barbecue actually down here in Orem.
Oh, nice.
Because when I first started playing just by myself, like when we were still playing together when I was 18, I used to drive out to Utah County and come down and play at an old barbecue restaurant.
Yeah.
And the people who managed that ended up doing this other restaurant, and so really bringing it back down to the roots.
So
you know
cool.
what I mean?
So cool. The other thing that's been really cool to watch with you, Carver, is like the hometown pride that has come from Tooele County has been like, yes, Carver, like,
absolutely.
That's our Carver. It's been really, really cool to see the county just like come together and support you. And
it definitely is, and it's I never thought that's the one thing that I absolutely love about Tooele County, and I've seen this in whether it be in success or in tragedy, the community and the friends that you make there will always be surrounding you. Usually they'll usually have your back, and I've been very Louise. I've been very thankful for the friends and families out there that I know, whether it be in Tooele, Grantsville, or Stansbury, that I have people come out to most of the shows when we do play in Utah. They all come out,
stand behind you.
Yeah, and it's that sort of support system. That speaks volumes, especially for their character and for the type of people that they are. To be able to come out and support their friends' son.
That's so cool.
it's like I feel like I'm playing Little League football again. Because you have that type of support system and it's so awesome.
That's so good. Well, I asked you to bring your guitar.
I did.
Because I love the fact that, like, right out of the gates, like the minute you started, I don't know how soon it was after you started playing, you started writing music.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that scares me to death, is to write music. And I've actually never written a song and performed it. Like,
what?
No, huh?
Well,
because
we're doing it.
I've
We're
done
doing it
but,
at our show.
So I respect artists that will, because I think it's the ultimate level of vulnerability. Like you're saying, this is something that came to me through whatever medium it came through, and I'm going to share it with you. And it's a message, it's a thought, it's a feeling, it's whatever it is. And so I think we should end this thing with you playing a song.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You got it? Yeah. Well, since we got everything rolling, make sure to follow Carver. He's on all the socials. It's Carver Louis Music, is that right? Yeah. And it's Louis, Louis, not Lews.
Not Lewi. Yeah. So I get that from my dad's dad, Louis, and so that's my middle name is Louis. And everyone always asks me, they're like, "Is that your real name?" I'm like, "Well, technically it is, yeah."
It is. He before, when I first introduced him, his last name is Jaramillo or Jaramillo.
Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say, it depends on where you are.
Yeah, it depends on where you're from and which language you speak.
Yeah. And your music's it's on Spotify. Where else?
Yep, Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio. And ever so lucky whenever we can get K-Bull or Z104 or the Eagle to spin a track. We were very appreciative to those guys. I absolutely love the radio family out here in Utah. They're awesome, especially with me, and couldn't do it without those guys, Cumulus, Broadway, and everyone else. So
that's sweet. Great music family here in Utah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. What are you going to play for us?
I'm going to play my brand new single. It's going to be coming out here soon. So it's not quite released, but it's called The One Who Broke It All Down. Okay. Well, I've been stranded on the side of the road. I've had my tank empty before I've seen every light come on my dashboard. Don't think I can fix up this break. Hell, I've tried everything, but it just don't seem to want to take. No matter what I do, it still won't go my way. She's the one who broke it all down. Left me stranded on that shoulder. Man, I wish I would've told her. She's the one who I can't seem to live without. Now I'm working on this heartache that I wish I could get started. And I know she's packing it up, getting the hell out of this town. Well, I'm stuck here figuring out, wondering how she made out as the one who broke it all down. No, I've held on at least a time or two, but I've never held on to someone like you. And the worst thing is I let you slip away. She's the one who broke it all down. Left me stranded on that shoulder. Man, I wish I would've told her. She's the one who I can't seem to live without. Now I'm working on this heartache that I wish I could get started. And
And I know she's packing it up, getting the hell out of this town. And now I'm stuck here figuring out, wondering how she made out as the one who broke it all down. One who broke it all down. Well, I've been stranded on the side of a road. I've had my tank empty before. I've seen every light come on my dashboard. Yeah.
A little out of tune. But we tried.
You did. That was great. So we had so many other questions we wanted to get to, and we try to keep this to an hour. But I just want to tell you, like, this is Coach Brad, like, for Carver, telling you I'm so proud to watch you and watch your growth. And I told you a few years ago, you serve nobody by playing small, and you continue to inspire me because you keep reaching, you keep pushing yourself. And I know I'm not the only one that you do that for. You living your dreams gives people, like so many other people, courage to continue to live their dreams. Everybody from Tooele, everybody from Utah, everybody who watches you and has followed you, we know how hard it is. We know the struggle. There's nobody who's ever accomplished anything that doesn't know all the stumbling, the falling, the obstacles that come along the way. And so, I mean, we might not know the exact one, but you just showed it to us. You know what it's like.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, everyone has struggles that they go through, and it's not everyone gets to see what's in the background. But
right.
Everyone's fighting something to get to where they want to be.
Right on.
Absolutely. But that means so much to me, Brad. So
you bet. You. And I can't wait to do this again. Like,
absolutely.
When you come back from Nashville to say, hey, what's up, guys? And who knows what it'll look like. I've got an idea of what it will look like, and I'm excited to watch that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to say, sweetheart?
I just want to thank you for
thank
exactly
you.
what Brad said. Thanks for being an inspiration. Thanks for representing Tooele County and
absolutely.
being amazing.
I love you guys, and thank you for having us on, and I appreciate it more than you guys know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make sure to check Carver out, follow him, push him out there. Artists like Carver need people that are letting them know it's being received, and so keep doing that. Thanks, Carver. And thanks, Rocky, for coming down.
This podcast was brought to you by True Agency Real Estate. If you want to check us out, our website is www.utahtrueagency.com, and we are also on all of the socials.